Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of Memoirs of the Father. If you know me outside of cheer, you know me as Alex. If you know me inside cheer, you know me as Burnham. And if you're someone that I used to coach, then you know me as the Father. And at some point, we're going to get into exactly what all that means. But for right now, I spent 2 years cheering at Graves County High School. I cheered at a couple smaller colleges afterwards, and then I was at Eastern Kentucky University for a year. I spent a little bit of time in All Star before coming back home, and then I was an assistant coach at Graves County for 4 years, 6 years as an assistant coach at McCracken County High School. I went back to All Star World, done a little bit of judging, a little bit of choreography, a little bit of this and a little that. But as of right now, I'm officially quote unquote retired, and we'll see how long that lasts. Because the only thing you can say in cheer is never say never. But one of the reasons why I'm wanting to do this podcast is to start passing a little bit of what I've learned and talk about what my experiences have been throughout this whole incredible journey. Cheerleading is a unique sport that puts you in a lot of unique situations, and it tests you inside and out. I think this is one of the most rewarding but mentally and physically demanding activities that you can be involved in. I'm going to refer to it a lot as a sport, and to me it's a little bit more than that. It has been my life. I have been dedicated and committed and driven to advance myself, to advance the sport, to help advance the people around me, and to make this as smooth and as easy of a process as possible. I love this. I've loved all the people that I've gotten to work with, but there were a lot of things I didn't always love, a lot of things I didn't always like. And there were a lot of days where it wasn't a very easy day. There were some long roads, some highs, some lows, and ones that went everywhere in between. But as we get here closer to the end, where I realize there's no road left but the one that leads to the end, I would like to pass on what I know, what I feel, what I went through, what we all go through. I want to open the door to some things that maybe haven't been opened before and talk about the way that I feel, the way that this made me feel, the real truth, not the business answer, the personal ones. I hope that you're going to enjoy this. I want you to understand that not everybody's going to think the way that I do. Not everybody's going to feel the way that I do. Some of the things I'm going to say are going to be exclusive to me. Some of them may hit home harder than you've ever felt anything in your life. My opinions are my own. Not of anybody that I'm associated with. Not that I'm associated with anyone very much these days. But my opinions are mine. They're not a reflection of anyone I've worked with or anywhere that I've been. It's me. This is 100% through my eyes, through what I feel. I hope that you enjoy this. The best place to start, I feel like, is the beginning. A lot of things that I learned in my first year, I think really resonated and carried on and impacted everything that I did in my career after that. So that's where I wanted to start today. See where we get and start to unravel all this big mystery, this story, the truth, the feeling, the reality of the situation, the reality of mine, the reality of what a lot of us face every single day. The good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons learned. So let's go ahead and take our first step together. My journey started in March of 2007 at Graves County High School. I had a friend that had been on the team the year prior, Scott, and he was asking me about coming to open gyms, had been asking me for a while. And then John Somerville, the head coach, approached me in the hallway, and he's like, hey, you should come to the open gyms. I think you'd be good at this. So, when the head coach of a national championship program comes and tells you, hey, I think you might be okay at this sport, it kind of gives you some hope to go give it a try. My girlfriend wanted to try out as well, and she wanted me to try out with her. She just saw it as a way for us to spend some more time together. So when you've got people coming at you at all ends like that, you're going to go and give it a shot. And I went to my first open gym, and I was hooked. It took me a little bit to get the idea of what was going on and understand, the most basic stuff. I did the toss to hands on my first day, and the rest of it was history for me. I kept going to all the open gyms. We come to the tryouts, we make the tryouts. And my tryout was pretty simple. When you're a new guy, they judge you based on, do you have the ability to learn? Are you coachable? Can you take instruction? Do you have potential? And I guess I hit the check on all those boxes because I did make the team. My girlfriend did not make the team. And looking back at it now, I understand why. She was terrible. She was not going to make that team. But she asked me what I was going to do. I said, I'm going to give this a try. And apparently that was the wrong answer because that was the end of that relationship. I don't feel bad about it at all. What I got out of this has been amazing. When you first get started, you look back and like it is so crazy how little of a clue that I had and what was going on and what I was going to do. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about is learning and navigating what this has been, especially this first year, because it's a whole lot of new experiences. And maybe you're a team that's going to nationals for the first time. Maybe you're just someone trying to get along, or you're a new person, or maybe you just need some time to reflect on what this journey's been like. So I'm excited to do that. A background on the team before we really get into this, so you can kind of set the table, because I think it's important to know the history, to know kind of what the situation, the circumstances throughout this story are going to be. Graves County High School was built up essentially by John Somerville for co-ed cheer. They competed in 94 and got in fourth place. I remember when I used to walk into the gym, even when I was a freshman, you could look up and see that banner hanging up of that fourth place team from 94. And I guess at that time that had been the best they had ever done. And John was pretty much given the team kind of as just as like a responsibility, as a chore, as a new teacher. And he just decided, well, if I'm going to be good at this, I'm going to be good at it. And put a lot of work and effort into building that program up and learning and evolving. In 2005, they won state title for the first time, and they had a goal to get in the top four. And I think their goal was to get in the top five, and they got fourth place. So they were exuberant, very thrilled. And then Christian Brothers had pretty much dominated most of large co-ed throughout the years. They left after 2005. They had 16 national titles, one of the best programs. If you get a chance to watch any of their videos, please feel free to do that. For the time, it was absolutely revolutionary. But in 05 and 06, Graves County started to won national championships, won state titles, had 2 perfect seasons in a row. And that is what I'm walking into. I have no cheerleading experience. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand counts or musics. I don't know what a cheerleading routine looks like. And I have just made this team that has very high expectations to win another national championship. 3-4-3 was the motto. 3 national titles, 4 state titles, 3 perfect seasons. That was the motto for the year. And I am a new guy, and I'm one of the smaller guys on the team. There were a lot of big boys ahead of me, and I mean a lot of big ones. And there was we probably had 12 or 13 seniors. It was a very big class. So the expectations were really high right out the gate. That's what I'm walking into. That's my introduction to cheerleading on a national championship program. And I can't even tell you what certain skills are named. If you said certain things to me, I wouldn't have a clue about them. So it's pretty, looking back at it, I didn't think anything of it at the time. If you have no experience in something like I did, and then you're going to the most highest level possible, there are certain resources that I'm going to have available to me that other people aren't. I had a wealth of knowledge around me at all times. I didn't always utilize that. But I understand how extremely blessed I was, because I don't think that if I had started anywhere else, I don't know if I would have had the opportunity to grow the way that I had or to achieve the things that I did. Because at the time, Graves County was very much ahead of the curve for the most part. They kind of understood a lot of what was going on with how to work the score sheets, what skills to teach you, to make people, to put us in positions to where we could have a future in this if we wanted to. Our first official practice of the summer, all that was pretty much hammered into us right out the gate. But we had our first official practice, and we were talking about pretty much what the expectations were for the season. We were going to try to win a national championship. We were going to try to win a state championship. We were going to try to have a perfect season. So we had big aspirations from the very beginning. We were talked specifically about treating everything exactly like a business transaction. What that means is that in business, you will do what you have to do to get the deal done. Our product that we're trying to sell is our routine. The person we're trying to sell it to is the judges. And in order to complete the deal, to complete the transaction, you have to do your due diligence. That means no whining, no crying. Understanding that there's going to be a lot of late nights and a lot of hard work. You're going to have to push through a lot of things that you don't want to. You're going to have to do a lot of things that you don't always feel comfortable with, but you're going to have to push through to get to where you want to get. And that means a lot of different things. You can break that down because it's not just the individuals, it's the team, it's the coaches, it's everybody. The coaches have to put together the right choreography. They have to prepare their athletes to be able to handle that, and you've got to sell the package and understand what do the judges want, what are the score sheets are indicating, what's the best thing that we can put out here. And it's a whole thing just on the coach end, and then our job as athletes is to go out there and to perform it, to be able to execute, to make the commitment, to show up, to be on time, to treat this like a business, because business is about making money, and there ain't no bigger money in cheerleading than winning championships. That's the business mindset, and it's effective. It works. You understand that this is what it's going to take to get to where you want to get. You have to be dedicated. You have to put in the work. You have to understand the element that you're in. You can't just go out there and do whatever. You have to understand why it's important, how these things piece together and put together the proper package. That's what we were taught in the very beginning. In the beginning, it always sounds good. It always, like, when you first join a team, everything's like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But you got to go out there and do the work. And when you do the work is when you're going to find out. It's when you're going to start to get tested. We had a lot of other rules that all went along with that business expectation. We were very prideful about doing unassisted stunts. Unassisted stunts at the time were our meal ticket. Nobody else was really doing them that often other than Sparkman. Reland was starting to, but a lot of the teams that we competed against didn't. And it was night and day difference in difficulty if you've done something that's assisted or unassisted. I'm very much still ingrained in that. I don't like having my stunts touched, not on the ankle, not under my wrist, not on my elbow, my back, my shoulders, nowhere. One guy, one girl. And that has been ingrained in me, and I have ingrained that in every single person that I have worked with. That's the way to do it. That's the way to get the attention that you want. That's what we're striving for, to be able to execute it at the highest level possible. And the highest level possible is unassisted on your own. I'm very, very proud of that. And like I said, that's something I pass along to everybody, and I'm going to harp about that an awful lot throughout these. So just go ahead and get ready for that one, because you're going to hear about it a lot. Anytime you mark your routine, you throw your standing tuck. That's not optional. No matter what. Even if we say mark it, you throw your standing tuck. Throw it outside, throw it inside, on the track, on the gym floor, on the mat. Whatever the scenario, you need to be prepared to do your standing tuck at all times. And we were asked as guys, go to tumbling. We all went to gymnastics. Even the guys that knew they were never going to get a standing tuck, we all went to gymnastics. And we had fun with it. If we have to go, we're going to have fun with it. But those of us that could, we learned. It was very beneficial, all that stuff. So those were rules that we had. You carry yourself like a champion. You be respectful at all times. You don't talk bad about people in public. You're not supposed to talk bad about people at all. But we're going to. It's cheerleading. There's going to be some trash talk going on. But you carry yourself in a certain way. You're always respectful. You're not going to get into a fight. You're not going to argue with people. You're not going to throw a fit. You know, if you win, you celebrate, you wait, you keep your mouth shut till the other team wins, and then you celebrate when it's your turn and let them have their moment. If you lose, you're going to be the first person to go over there to the team that beat you, and you're going to shake their hand. That's the way we're supposed to carry ourselves. And then we were really preached to about the all-American look at this time. So you got to keep your face shaven when you're in uniform, keep your hair cut. That all-American clean look, that doesn't really apply that much anymore. I mean, there's people with full beards, tattoos, long hair, buns, everything. But at this time, it was a really big deal to kind of have that image. And like I said, it was all about keeping us very informed and keeping us disciplined. Having discipline is a key to be able to control your emotions, to be able to lock in and do your work when you need to, despite what's going on. All of these things kind of built up and disciplined us in different ways. It's starting small with small little tasks like this, like making sure that you're clean shaved, making sure that you're showing up on time. These little things are teaching you routine and pattern. And once you get your discipline down, you can start to add other things on it. And it's the little things and taking small steps. I mean, my summer practices were pretty normal, just kind of, trying to get used to and adjusted to learning the counts, learning how to count to some music, doing basic skills, trying to get comfortable, learning a lot of things like catching cradles, doing some baskets, stuff like that. Just a general introduction. First few weeks were fantastic. Then we went to the University of Kentucky. They had the co-ed prep clinic, and this was in the summer of 2007. This is one of the best clinics that I ever used to go to. It's not around anymore, sadly. But what would happen is we and a couple other teams, and I guess whoever, because there were people that weren't on teams that went, and we would go to the University of Kentucky for this co-ed prep clinic. I don't think that Kentucky hosted it, but I know that most of their people worked it. So it was a chance to be around like Jomo and all these other really great cheerleaders that are at the University of Kentucky at the time. I think Jeremy Lumpkin was there, Reese, Josh Gallia, Allie was there. So people that would go on to make a pretty big impact throughout the cheerleading career are here. We invite to come with us Sunbury High School that we were competing against in our division. We invited them to come to this prep clinic with us. And as someone who has been in other sports, that did not make a ton of sense to me, to bring your competition to a clinic and try to help them and them try to help you when later on we're going to try to be competing for the same thing. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't understand at the time the community that cheerleading has. So a lot of teams, they work together. There's not a lot. There are people that are bitter and angry, but the general rule around the community is that it's about helping the community grow. We like seeing people get better. We like helping people, integrating teams together and going through all this. It's kind of just the lifeblood of this. And a lot of the growth over the last several years has been because of just that. We really are a community, and people stand over other people. They like to watch good cheerleading, like to watch good routines. They like to practice each other. There's a pretty good sportsman and showmanship across the board in a lot of divisions. So that was something that I had to get used to because it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, this is kind of dumb. My first clinic was kind of, I just wasn't skill ready, but even though I wasn't really ready to learn anything beyond the basics and try to get that more simple and consistent, just going to the clinic and getting to listen to other people's instruction was beneficial. Because at some point I would be in a situation where I was working on whatever skill that individual was. And I remember some of the things that were said at those clinics. And I was like, wow, it's important to go. And even if you're not involved in certain things or at a certain level, just being able to get the instruction, being able to get to listen, hear some fresh opinions, man, that stuff is super, super important. Always keep your ears open in cheerleading because you never know what you're going to learn. You never know when you hear something that's going to apply to you. Of course, after those, we come back and keep finishing up to the summer, and then we would come to choreography camp right before school started. This is the first real test for your team. Choreography camp is usually 3 or more days, 6, 8, 9, 10-hour days. Who knows? Once it starts, you don't know when it's going to end. Of just really grinding and really putting the boots down on ironing out what your routine is going to be like. And this is super important. The test obviously becomes you got to be focused, you got to be dialed in. A lot of stuff is going on because this is the routine that's going to dictate whether you're successful or not. Because nobody wants to go back 6 months later and scrap an entire routine. Usually, most of the time, once you build something up, you're really going to work. You can adjust some things here and there. But like I said, the last thing that you want to do is be in a situation where you're restructuring an entire routine. So the skills that you perform at the choreography camp are typically what you're going to be working on. So if you're not dialed in and you're not locked in and you can't demonstrate that you're somewhat capable of these skills, because obviously you're not going to put together a routine with things that you don't think that they're capable of. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hit it every single time. But you at least have to demonstrate that you're capable of the skills that we're putting in this routine. Otherwise, we're not going to bother putting them in there if you're not capable of doing them. So this is super, super important to understand that this is really going to dictate the rest of the course of your season. At this time, kind of what our routines looked like were so much different than they are today. The routines were a lot slower. In large co-ed in particular, we could have 20 people on the mat total. Most of the time, we were half and half, and sometimes we had more guys than we did girls. So I would say, 10, 11, 12 to 8 or 9 girls. That's probably the way that worked out most of the time. No more than 20. Minimum of 5 guys to be in the large co-ed division. Tumbling was pretty much the same as what it's always been. It might have been worth a little bit more points back then. But obviously the tumbling was not super, super insane. It was pretty much kind of the run-of-the-mill what it is today, standing tucks and round up back handspring tucks, some variety skills. The biggest differences would be the stunts. Like in large co-ed today, I think the minimum requirement is 5, and sometimes you see way more than that. At this time, the number pretty consistently across the board was 4. You were going to do 4 stunts in each sequence that you did. And a lot of what we did was sequences. So sequences would be like 2 stunts connected together with a transition. A lot of stuff you see today is 1 stunt pop off, 1 stunt roll here, do this. But we were really built on you were going to have just two stunts, not three, not four, not five, and four individual groups inside of each one of those sequences. That was pretty much universal across the board. Some guys might do five, but for the most part, four was kind of right where you wanted to be. Pyramids were worth significantly more here. Baskets were a big part of our score sheet, but we were super limited in what we could do with pyramids. Obviously, none of the flipping or inversions, no braced rolls, no braced inversions, none of that stuff existed at that time, or it existed, but we weren't allowed to do it. It was pretty much stags and a lot of fluff and shenanigans and a lot of showman skills just to get to a stag, basically. So it's kind of crazy to think that pyramids were worth so much more then than they are today, considering that we were capable of about a fraction of what they're capable of today. Same thing with stunts. I mean, we couldn't do anything that was inverted, nothing that was flipped. You could do a double up, just nobody could do it. There was no rule stopping us from doing two spins. We could double down. That's the only thing that I think that we could do then that you can't really do now. Doing the double down is significantly easier, in my opinion, than a high school kid trying to do a back handspring pull up. But that's just me. Maybe somewhere down the line, someone can explain that logic to me because it's a little bit lost on me. But that's generally what our routines would look like. Everybody did the cheer in the middle, and the cheer was pretty much the same. It's always been worth 35 points from the best of my knowledge, or at least since I've been in here. So that's kind of what our routine was kind of shaped about and what it would look like. Obviously, drastically different from what they look like today. That's just part of everything evolving, everything growing, everything moving in a different direction. Once we got back from school is when I started to notice things start to go a little bit rough. And I want to talk about a little bit of drama that was a very pivotal moment in our season that I think impacted it and changed the way that everything went. It's not uncommon for people to come and go. Since it's for personal reasons to focus on school, they don't want to do it anymore, they're not passionate about it. Those things happen. It's not uncommon. We had an 8th grader on the team, and her name was Jordan. She was on the team the year before when they really needed top girls, and they brought her in. This year, we didn't need as many top girls. She was in all the stunts. She was in all the pyramids, and she did not have a standing tuck, and that was a requirement for all the girls to be on the floor, was to have a standing tuck. We had a senior girl who wasn't on the floor because she didn't have a standing tuck. Some of the other girls got to talking, I guess, and they were not very pleasant about this. We had one girl that was a senior that had all of her stuff, and she was capable of going in and flying. And that, I guess that point was brought up. I didn't really know anything until the day that she came in to tell everybody that she wasn't coming back, that she was done, she was going home. And she pretty much just said it was because of the way that people were treating her. I was upset at the time. That was my friend. That was the first person I'd ever stunted with. I was very upset about it. Looking back on it now, all these years later, after having been a coach, I understand it 100%. The expectation was that to be on the floor as a girl, you had to have a standing tuck. She didn't. We had people that were capable of. We were not in the situation that she was in the year before where we needed her. She knew she needed to have it. It wasn't a mystery. I understand why they got taken her out. I don't understand the girls being mean about it, but I understand them being frustrated. Because if I had to work on and get this skill and I was told that it was an expectation, and then I saw someone who didn't have to do that, I would be upset. And I would have a difficult time trusting someone and depending on someone who wasn't willing to do the things that I was willing to do. And I get that a little bit. You also can't let those things slide. If that's the way that you're going to run your team and that's the way that it's got to be, then you have to be willing to enforce those things. Looking back at it, I think I would have done the same thing. She made the decision to go, but she very well could have made the decision to stay as an alternate, work on her skill, and get it and earn her way back in. She chose not to do that. That was her choice. Maybe she was overwhelmed by it. I mean, I've talked to her a lot about that. I know what was going on. But I also understand that she had another choice, and she chose not to take that. But now, looking back at it, I do see both sides of the story. And I understand it a lot better than I did at the time. Unfortunately, our senior leader did not see that the way that I did. Matt was a narcissist, and I hate Matt. Didn't nobody like Matt. He was the loudest person in the room, and he couldn't keep his mouth shut, and he was a narcissist, and he made everybody's life miserable. And this is where things started to go bad. So we're reworking the routine, putting this girl in, and Matt is just being discouraging. He's saying horrible things. Another girl came up, and I remember her saying, "I'm going to punch him right in the face," and I was like, yes. Please destroy him. Nobody's going to help him. We're going to let it happen. But from that moment on, the tensions were pretty high. I felt like we were divided for a long time. It was hard to get over that. What it affected in our chemistry was the most detrimental part. Chemistry is absolutely essential to being successful and to having your team run cohesively. A lot of the stuff that you're going to do throughout your year is about building up your chemistry together. You don't have to like each other. You don't have to love each other, but you do have to be willing to work together and to not allow things to be dysfunctional. We were struggling with that at that moment. But like I said, the chemistry is important. It keeps everybody focused. It builds trust. It builds reliability. And in that moment, we weren't doing that anymore. And until we dug ourselves out of that, we were going to continue to struggle. We were going to continue to fight. And at this point, I've kind of decided I don't really want to do this anymore. I've made a commitment. I'm going to honor what I said that I would do. I'm not going to leave them high and dry. But I've kind of gotten to the point where I realized when this season's over, I'm not going to come back. The changes were a little bit rough at first to get used to. Obviously, having new people to work with. But you got to be adaptable. Things are going to change constantly. You have to be ready to do those kinds of things. I remember for the first several weeks, we were just really kind of trying to grind it out, getting adjusted to the full outs and everything. But in November of 2007, we did our first competition. That was at Bluegrass Regionals, UCA. It still goes on today in Lexington, Kentucky, in the convention center that's attached to Rupp Arena. This is my very first cheerleading competition that I've ever been to. And I remember walking in. It's a pretty good sized venue. It's jam-packed. There's lots of people in there all the time. Kentucky's a really big state for cheerleading, which if you don't know anything about cheerleading, that will surprise you quite a bit because I lived here for a long time before I ever figured it out. But we had a lot of prominent teams, and this is a really big regional. Like Paul Lawrence Dunbar was there, and they were winning all the time. Obviously, we were there. Graves County, Reedland High School, Barron County, Bullitt Central was probably there. GRC, Greenup. Big, rich history of the state of Kentucky. So this is a pretty big regional. It's a chance to kind of sit down and watch some other teams that have similar aspirations as you, see how everybody's performed, get a grip and an idea of where you are at the season. We didn't have any competition at this one. It was pretty much just show up and do our thing, and we were going to get our bid to nationals. The goal is still to have a good performance because you know that people are going to talk. Judges are going to talk. The staff that are there, they're going to talk, and the word is going to spread about how your performance goes. Because back then, we didn't have varsity TV. People weren't filming our competition. Well, people were filming them because there were guys setting up tripods in the back of these arenas without a care in the world. It's still important to go out there and have a good performance. It doesn't have to be perfect, really early on at regionals, but you want to demonstrate that you're in a good position, that you're ahead of schedule, that you're capable of doing what you're doing, and that you look like a team that's destined to be ready come February. My first time doing it, like I said, I don't remember a whole lot about everything leading up to it. I just remember, when you first start walking down that hallway and you're getting ready to go to the warm-up room, everything's kind of chill at first. No big deal. You come up in the warm-up room, you have 2 panel mats to stretch. We had 2 panel mats to do some tumbling, 2 panel mats to warm up stunts, and then I think at the time we probably had 8 minutes of full floor. It was enough time to do 2 full outs, and the first full out we would just do stunts and tumbling. And then the second full out, we would do PCP, pyramid, cheer pyramid. That was what our warm-up was. I was a little superstitious. A lot of people are like that. I have to eat something. Immediately after the warm-up room, I have to eat. I've got a cheeseburger in my pocket, and I am just jamming it down my throat while we're walking out. Because you're going back through the curtain. When you're waiting around the curtain, you're waiting, and you can see the floor. You see all the teams that are going. You can see who is performing and all the people that are out there. And there's some bright lights. But I remember we went out on the floor. I was chewing gum too, and we were getting set for the basket right at the beginning, and I dropped my gum on the floor. I went to pick it up, and the music just started, and I was like, well, no time for that, and I just grabbed the basket, left my gum, and we just went to work. It was a really fun experience. I remember that. Like I said, there was no real pressure because of the competition, but for a first experience, it was a little rough. I didn't do super hot. The first half was really solid. I think we got through that pretty good. And the cheer, I was the cheer stunt, the L. And when we had done the changes, I had a new girl, and we were not gelling very well together. She wasn't a top girl. She never was a top girl. From that moment or the 4 years that she was there after that, she was never a top girl. So we were struggling. I think I walked up like 5 feet doing this. This is the last year that we did EAG, LES, and the cheer, and I bet that I'm the reason. Why? Because it was EAGL all the way to the front. ES. That's kind of what it looked like. I think our second stunt, I wasn't in it, but I was the secondary guy. I think that fell, and then really that might have been the only mistake. We might have our pyramid was really rough and ugly. Like it didn't look good. I think we hit it, but it just looked awful. But we walked out of there feeling pretty good. We had a good performance. We only had a couple of mistakes. We did a lot of things well. Our scores came back good. I mean, we felt like we accomplished what we came there to accomplish. Because, at different points of the season, you want to be at different places. We really didn't change this routine a whole super lot. Pretty much what it was is what we kept it, which is normally unusual for us. Typically, you're building up, but we where we were at, and we were capable of it. But we did. We had a good performance. We were proud of it. And like I said, at that point, it's just about demonstrating that you're capable. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to go out there and show that you're moving in the right direction. And like I said, word's going to travel at this point. People are going to talk to people. People are going to know someone who's there. That's just kind of how it is. The cheerleading community is all connected. Remember what I said. We're all connected, and everybody talks, and everybody's going to give out information and stuff like that. That's just kind of how it goes. We felt like we left sending a pretty good message out into the world about what we were going to do. Now, after that, for us at this point, we pretty much have about 6 weeks where nothing's going to happen. We're just doing performances. We're just doing practices, trying to iron out. And December for us was, at this time, was like one of the most draining months because you're not doing anything. You're ready. You just had a performance. You just got to compete. You're ready to do it again. You're excited. You've been working on this routine for a while now. Some of it's starting to grind away at you. You wanted to do some other stuff, but you just kind of keep trucking on. And then, Thanksgiving break, there's Christmas break in between. So any kind of momentum you get, you feel like you kind of got to take a step back when you come back because, people are gone during the breaks and it gets, like I said, you just kind of get really restless. Like you're ready to start getting this going. And then we go into January, which is the big boom month. You are constantly busy during the month of January. We would always go to the Morehead Showcase. The Morehead Showcase takes place about a week before college nationals. Obviously, it's at Morehead State University. And what it is Morehead performs, the University of Kentucky. At this time, Northern Kentucky University was coming. So all the colleges, a lot of the prominent high schools in the area we come. It's a chance to perform in front of a really big crowd, a really good cheerleading crowd. A lot of teams that have similar goals to be champions. And getting a chance to have a great performance in front of a really big crowd. And for us, it's a really great opportunity because at this time, like I said, varsity TV didn't exist. And you wouldn't just see footage of people's teams everywhere unless someone like uploaded it onto YouTube. But for a lot of us, it was the first chance to get to see these teams. And I mean, the Kentucky and Morehead teams at this time, they've always been unbelievable. They're outstandingly exceptional at this point too. So like we would come back from Christmas break and just pound away for that week. It's a really hard week. You're practicing a lot. You're doing a lot of full outs. You're trying to get your wind back in you, trying to get comfortable with your routine again. And then we would go do the Morehead Showcase that weekend. So we would go up. I think we would stop in Lexington at the Kentucky Elite Gym at the time. We'd have a practice with Mark Coleman, our choreographer, and go over everything and kind of get another look at it, get his eyes on it, make sure that we're doing good because it's probably been a while since he's seen us. And then we'd go to the Morehead Showcase and do that performance. And we had a really good performance. We had one drop, and the guy got back in it really quick. And you hardly even noticed it. We were really, really pleased with our performance. And then getting to watch the colleges for the first time was like culture shock to me. Because, I mean, I watched some YouTube videos of this and that. But, like, it wasn't that common to find, like, full routines on YouTube at the time. And I think they did, like, round off one-arm rewinds for UK. So, I mean, it was, like, the crazy stuff. Like, you don't even see people do that stuff now. Like I said, to me, it's, for us, it's the second biggest weekend of the year to nationals. It's super, super important. Because it is a big crowd. It's a crowd of people that knows what cheerleading is. These people are not oblivious to what's going on. It's not like performing at a basketball game. And you're in front of a lot of big players. Like, you don't want to make a mistake when you're Kentucky's getting ready to follow you. It's not, you're not going to like touch them anyway. But like the last thing you want to do is stink up the joint before one of these great teams is going to come out here and perform. So it is a really good opportunity to, like I said, be in front of a crowd, be in front of some really high profile people, get lots of good feedback. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and it's pretty much the signal of it's time to go. From this point on, we're practicing like every day. We're not having long practices. We might just come in for an hour, do 1 or 2 full outs, and go home. Doing as many performances as we can. Everything's trying to gear up towards nationals. So you really kind of get to this point where you're starting to get exhausted, you're starting to get beat down, and that's all by design. Every bit of that is trying to put you in this similar situation to what you might feel at nationals, because being tired is a similar result of what you get from anxiety. Anxiety wears you down, fear. What we're trying to do through that month of really pushing it and really starting to wear our down is prepare ourselves for what we might feel like when you get at nationals. Because you might be well rested, you might get to go at a good time, but obviously nerves are going to affect you in a different way, and they affect everybody in some fashion. So this is just getting our bodies used to something, being exhausted, being worn down, kind of trying to make everything second nature to where, like, no matter what's going on, we're still going to be capable of having the performance that we want to have. And then obviously it's at that point, it goes so fast. We were practicing with a lot of other teams during this time too, getting a chance to perform in front of each other. Reedland High School, Marshall County, Martin Westview, which was a prominent all-girl team at the time, had won national titles. They would come and practice with us as well. So it was a really great time, and we were in a really good community. Like I said, everything felt like it was going really good. We were starting to get to that point where, like, we were getting ready to hit our peak. And the peak is when everything's hitting, everything's great. You're having a good performance. You're balling out. You're at that point where you're ready to go out there and deliver. And my confidence was through the roof. I felt so comfortable with my team at this point. We were doing the things. We had gotten over all the drama. We were really just kind of plugging away. And before we knew it, it was time for nationals. We left on a Wednesday. We probably flew out of Nashville, would be my best guess. We Nashville to Atlanta. We had a layover in Atlanta, and then we flew into Orlando. And as soon as we got off in Orlando, we stayed at the Disney All-Star Resort. First thing we did was practice. And obviously the football field is one of the most iconic things in cheerleading. To practice on the All-Star Resort football field, that's like the place. Anytime there's a big competition down there, you go out there and it is jam-packed from end to end. Cheerleading teams touching each other, next to each other, and we're all trying to go out there and get an opportunity to lay it out there. It's a really great time to have a great performance, to kind of get the energy, get people talking. It's a really hype atmosphere. Like, I can't think of anything that's like that. If you've been down there, you want to practice there. You want to do good. All eyes are on you, kind of thing. At this time, the turf on the football field is not grass. It is concrete. And we still have that same expectation. You always throw your standing tuck. So and it's on edge. Like, you better be paying attention. We're throwing baskets, all this crazy stuff that you would never get away with doing today. And it was just go out there and do it, man. We were having a great time. We practiced once with Sun Prairie, and they brought us T-shirts. It was a really nice gesture. They didn't mean anything cross by it. But on one side of the shirt, there was the Cardinal and the Eagle, us and them. And then on the back, it said something along the lines of holding our own, Nationals 2008. It was a really nice gesture. And they were very appreciative. And like I said, we had a good relationship with them. But the only person that understood what that meant was Fat Matt. And he was the first person to say it. That T-shirt with us together, holding our own, was them symbolizing that they were not afraid of us. That they thought that they were on our level. That they thought that they could be competitive with us. And they were right, they could. But that was them saying that they weren't afraid of us. And in that moment, the competitive juices have finally started to come out of me. Like I said, they didn't mean anything cross about it. But they felt like they could beat us. They were threatening what we were trying to do. And it was time to wake up. It was time to get focused. Because when you have that moment, when you're face to face with what your challenges are, and they were our challenge, you have to be focused on what you're doing. You have to be dialed in. When you have to sit there and reflect on the last 365 days of what you've done and what you've been through, to finally be here, to finally be in this position, and to understand that the threat is real, the threat is here, the threat is now, and the pressure is on you to do what you promised and you committed to do, to what you've worked for, to what you've given. All the drama, all the fight, all the sweat, all the tough times, all the frustrations. It's here now. And it's time to go to work. We had a great practice. Blew the roof off the place. There was no roof on the place, but if there was, we'd have blown it away. We had a great performance. We were dialed in. We were ready. I felt so confident in my team. I believed in my heart and soul that we were going to do. We had proved it. In my mind, it felt solidified. I had no nerves. I also didn't know what to think. I also didn't know what to be scared of. I've never been to nationals before, and I was getting ready to find out what it was really like. The night before nationals, we would have like a powwow. We'd all kind of get together and talk about the season. It was a chance to give like a big emotional release, get some things off our chest, talk about the team. All the seniors talk, and it's an emotional thing because it's their last nationals, last moment with us. So it's very emotional. And then some of us, the other ones, got the chance to speak. And I remember when I got to, it had been hard and emotional and frustrating. And I had been on the fence about not coming back. But when you stop and you think about what all it took for all of us, that every single day you weren't there alone, that you had them. No matter the fighting, no matter the arguing, no matter the bickering, no matter the getting at each other's necks, we were all there together. We made it this far. We didn't quit. I loved my team. Drove me crazy sometimes, but I loved my team. And they were my friends. And this was my last chance to spend with 13 of them. I was a very different person before all this started. I changed a lot of things to be able to be there, and I was happy about it. I felt like I was a better person because of it. I felt like I was a part of something that was bigger than just myself. It was a special moment. I was very emotional. I was crying. I loved them so much. And when you really stop and you think about just being together with your friends, the good, the bad, the ugly, no matter what stood in our way, we were there, and we had a chance. And more importantly, I was just happy about all the bonds that I had built with people, the friends that I had made, the things that I had learned, getting rides to tumbling, getting rides to practice, getting taken places and hanging out with people. And they didn't ever have to do all that, but they did. And John even gave me a hug. And if you know John, he's not the most emotional person in the world. He can come off as pretty dry. He's a really great guy, though. He actually does care a lot. He just comes off as a little dry. So when he gave me a hug, and I was just happy. Everybody was crying in the room, not just me. We were all crying, but I just felt so good about my team. I was so happy and proud in that moment. Now let's get to the fun stuff. At this time, it still is, but Nationals was all in the HP Fieldhouse. The arena and all that didn't exist. So you come into the ESPN Wild World of Sports and you walk up that long pathway and you see like the vista and all that stuff. And then there's it is. And this is a really great place. The atmosphere is insane when you walk there. You can feel it. There's a lot of intensity in the air. There's some frustration. There's some sadness. Some people are going to cry. Some people are going to laugh. Some people are going to celebrate. And some people are going to wish that they weren't there. And you can feel every single bit of it in the air. This was the first year that they used the Disney Castle backdrop. I was the very first year of that. So that was pretty awesome. That added another little flair to it. And there is no venue in cheerleading like this. Like no regional competition, no this or that is ever going to prepare you for what that room looks like. And I'm glad that we got there early so you can get a chance to kind of adjust the atmosphere the way that it's built. The acoustics carry really good. The sound carries really good in that room. The lights are bright. You got the ESPN cameras everywhere. It's a different animal. And, us getting there early, kind of getting a chance to adjust and get the feel of what this place is going to look like, what it's going to be like to do it. I had never really gotten nervous before we went. But as we're getting back there to go to the prelims, and you're doing that walk down that hallway, it starts to feel a little different. You start to get those butterflies in your stomach. It's kind of like a knot is forming, and you can feel everything kind of sucking in, and it's like, oh boy, it's here. It's now. It's now. It's the business, and you got to shut all that stuff down, and you got to go to work. So you go back in there into that warm-up room, and you're standing in line. There's lots of teams in front of you, and there's the ESPN camera guys. There's 3 full floors back here. There's 3 teams doing all their stuff all the time. It moves quick. You get back in there, you got to be focused. Everything's going everywhere. This team's doing that. My eyes are shooting over here, and I'm like, I got to lock in. I don't remember a lot about our warm-up, but I remember it being pretty good. We felt pretty comfortable going out of there. On the floor, we did really well. We dropped 1 pyramid. And it had like never, I don't think it had ever dropped before that. And it was kind of like, right at the end of the first half, going into the cheer, we had a good performance. And, we really didn't feel too bad about having a mistake. Honestly, it's your first go through, and having a mistake just kind of like lets people know, like, hey, let's be on our toes. Even something that hadn't fallen in months. Make sure you're staying focused. Don't. It's a really good thing to kind of get everybody to tighten up and lock in and focus. And like I said, it's your first time going out there. The anxiety and the nerves, they all kind of settle in a different way. So the second time that you go through, you've already got that experience under your belt of being on that floor, being in that same situation. You know what the lights are going to look like. You know what the crowd's going to feel like, and all that stuff. So it's a chance to get one last little sliver of experience. And having a mistake isn't the end of the world. It just means, hey, we got to come back and focus up. After prelims, we just go back to the hotel and just kind of relax. And it's just be real relaxed. Make sure you're conserving your energy. If you need to take a nap, take a nap. Make sure that you're eating well, eating clean. Nothing, you don't need to be jamming McDonald's down your throat. We knew that we were in second place, which obviously we had the mistake. And who was ahead of us? It was Sun Prairie. So we knew that this was going to come down to the wire. The scores were pretty close, even with us having a mistake. We knew it was going to be tight. We go back over to the field house for finals. And I remember walking through the parking lot. We were just jamming out the music, trying to get locked in. It was a really exciting time. I mean, we all felt pretty good. Got over there, went through that same walk, that same thing right down the tunnel, go through the warm-up. The warm-up was great. Now it's starting to get real. You leave that warm-up room and you start walking down that hallway. And you can hear the music, you can hear the pounding, and you know this is it. This is the last 2.5 minutes. It's all in the line here. Everything's running through your mind. Everything that you're trying your best to focus on that routine, on what you have to do. There's so many distractions. Everybody's back there talking, having a good time. People got headsets on. They're trying to navigate this and that. You look up and you can see the monitor playing what's going on the floor. You can see the teams in front of you. I took that floor, man. I've never felt so good. I really haven't. Everything goes great. I mean, we ripped that basket in the beginning. All the toss stretches hit. We hit the arabesque. The double downs are great. The pyramid, the one that we dropped, we went ahead. We hit it this time. Everything's going great. We go through the cheer. In the cheer stunt, in prelims and finals, me and the guy, one of us was doing it and the one was spotting, and we just switched whenever we wanted to. I don't know if our coaches even know who did it, but we were just switching in and out, just whoever felt like it that day. So if that's a scary thought, that's what it was. I did it in finals, and it was the first time I'd ever performed it. But yeah, so that's what we do sometimes. But we went through the cheer, and everything was going good, man. Everything was going good. We get to the second stunt right after the second half starts. And I'm with Justin, and the stunt's going great. And out of the corner of my eye, I see it. The stunt that is on the far right end, if you're watching it, is in my left eye peripheral vision. They go to a stretch to do the double down. The stretch starts to move, comes down early into a cradle. Maybe it's a drop, maybe it's not a drop. It definitely missed a skill. It's definitely off count. We're in trouble. I then make a dumb mistake. I turn around to yell and to get really hype and like, hey, let's do this. Let's lock in. I turn around to do this pyramid, and I shrug a half an 8 count early. Everyone in the group is looking at me like, is this the right count? Someone audibly said, is this the right count? They all shrugged, and we all went. Our basket goes up. The other basket goes up. We spin up. The other side spins up. Another basket. The other side does their basket. And that was it. We got through it. We hit the pyramid. We were all excited. Didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue until I got back there and saw the monitor. And then we sat in the hallway. And reality has settled in. I remember Mark telling us specifically, we didn't do enough. We're not going to win. And you could have cut the silence in that room with a knife. Just looking around at people just staring at the floor, some people crying, and realizing that I was a part of what made that happen. When you walk off that mat, you're going to ask yourself one of two questions. Did I help my team win, or did I help my team lose? If you're a part of any program that's got any kind of history, then you already know what I know. Dynasties are bad for business, and they are looking for a reason to take that title away from you. One fraction of not being focused, of not being on point, 1 second of not focusing on your grip, on your toss, on being sharp, on being tight in the cheer. That's all that it's going to take for them to decide that you weren't perfect and you won't win. There's a difference between being perfect for 2.5 minutes and 2 minutes and 29 seconds. And that difference is usually winning and losing. And in this instance, I lost. We went to awards. They called most of the teams. Third place was Brother Martin. Second place, it's us and Sun Prairie. And you know they're going to put on the show. They're going to bring out the cameras and stick them right in your face. Big dramatic pause. In second place, Graves County High School. We clapped. That's about all we did was clap. And then they announced your new national champions. Large co-ed division, Sun Prairie High School. And listen, they did their job. They were great. They performed toss QPs. First time the toss QPs had been performed since 2002. And at that time, nobody did them. I mean, it's pretty commonplace now. But that was the second time they had ever been performed. And they absolutely smacked them. They had a great routine. They did their job. We didn't. We had to get up and go over there and shake their hand, congratulate them on winning a championship, and then we had to come back to the hotel and sit in what we had done. At the beginning, I didn't know anything about this. And less than a year later, I'm wondering what I could have done better to be a national champion, how the tables had turned, right? I felt like it was my fault. I understand that I wasn't the only one that made a mistake. I understand that in that pyramid, I was the only one that had no experience and that everybody knew what the count was. I get it all. I do. I made a mistake. And that mistake may have been big enough to decide that my team couldn't win. It's just a tumbling touchdown. It's just a bobble. You lost. That's what it was. And that feeling would change a lot of things in me for a long time. I would spend a lot of nights and a lot of years trying to put that behind me, to trying to make up for the mistake that I made. Years later, you know, they told me that they didn't blame me for that, you know, it wouldn't have made a difference, that maybe even if we'd hit, maybe we weren't going to win, but it doesn't change that in that moment I felt that, and that it has lived inside of me for a very long time since then. The day after, when we go out there to go stunt and just have fun, you can see it. I made a lot of improvement that day. I went from a guy that could barely do anything to looking like I was a guy that could maybe be competitive. I had some potential. You know, couldn't even do a toss extension the week before, but I'm doing toss libs today. I'm doing QPs. I'm playing with all kinds of stunts. I'm becoming serviceable. That mistake was essential to that, to helping me build into something. I was going to make it something. It's easy to do it right then and there in the moment when that feeling of loss and that hurt is beating on you, when it's fresh. But over time, that wound is going to seal up. Over time, eventually, it's not going to hurt as bad, and eventually it's going to go away, and you're going to forget what it felt like in that worst moment of your life. And is that fire still going to burn in you? Are you still going to be driven to go out there and do the things that you said you were capable of? When the moment that created that feeling in you that lit the fire in your soul no longer exists, when you're well beyond that, what's going to push you? We come back home. We still have state that week. At this point in time, state is run by KPOS in Kentucky, and it takes place the week after nationals, not before like it does today. We go. We have a really great performance. We look as good as we should have looked the week before. No problems. Everything hit. We win a state title. It was the biggest win I think we'd ever had. I think we won by 17 points. When the year was over, we didn't get rings. Most people, if they won a state title, they would get them. But because we had started winning national titles, we made the decision that we were not going to get rings. Not, we don't get rings for state titles anymore. Because now I've won something that I can be proud of, and I don't have anything to commemorate it. And a lot of things are starting to light the fire. Obviously, the mistake, wanting to come back and win. I made the decision that I was ready to come back. That I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a part of this. And I wanted to be a champion. And the wheels were starting to turn to where I was very desperate to get this done. And over time, that story is going to be very interesting. But we're going to have to save that for next time. I hope that you enjoyed everything. I'm going to try to be a little bit more creative and try to. I don't think a lot of the ones in the future will be as long as this one. This is just kind of an introduction and kind of curving the mindset and kind of getting a taste of everything. But we're going to look to cover some more of my cheerleading, some of my coaching years, some a lot more lessons that I learned. If anything I said kind of resonates with you or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to take questions. I'm always happy to provide some insight as best that I can. I also want to say I got some people that I coach that are getting ready to compete at college nationals. I've got Max Hausman that's going to be doing partner stunt with West Georgia, and he's competing on West Georgia's large co-ed team. I've got Brandon Gray, who's at the University of South Florida. He is qualified for partner stunt. I don't know if he's competing or not yet. I haven't spoken to him, but he'll also be on the floor for the University of South Florida. Hunter Hazel, who will be on Blue Squad at the University of Kentucky, and Joseph Hazel, that will be competing at White Squad along with Audrey. They will both be competing in game day for the University of Kentucky. I've got Ethan Gaminsky and Landon that will be competing at Jones in the junior college division. Clark that will be competing at Iowa Western in the junior college division. Noah that will be with University of Alabama. I have Jacob that will be Morehead State Large Co-Ed, Haley that will be Morehead State Game Day, and Izzy that will be Morehead State Small Co-Ed. I hope you guys do well. I'm looking out for you guys the best that I can. I'll be watching at home, rooting for you guys. I wish you the very best. I hope that you get 2.5, 5 minutes, whatever it is you got. I hope that you get to be the best that you've ever been. I'm so proud of you guys and everything that you're accomplishing. I can't wait to see what this chapter holds for you guys. I know some of you guys are competing against each other, but I'm rooting for everybody. Go bring home some gold. Be proud. Be proud of what you've accomplished. Be proud of what you've done. Be proud of what you've earned. And go out there and show the whole world exactly who you are. I love you guys, and I'm proud of you. And for everyone else, I'll see you down the road. Thank you, and good day.